What's up, everyone? Welcome into today's NBA strategy show here on the Awesemo YouTube channel and wherever you are finding us. I'm Adam Kaufman, and it's a special one, not just this show because Josh and I get to be here with you, but because NBA trade deadline is only a matter of hours away, 5 hours away to be exact. And if anything interesting breaks over the course of this hour, we will be sure to tell you all about it, while also previewing, of course, tonight's 5-game slate in the association. Josh Engleman, how are you, man?
And we just got breaking news. Javale Mcgee traded to the Denver Nuggets.
Well, let's break it all down. Let's talk all about it.
Man, I like it a lot.
Last night,
Denver needed a backup center, man. That's probably a good pull. I can't imagine it's going to cost them anything more than a crappy second. So, that's a free 10 to 14 minutes of playoff rotation center minutes. I like it. Welcome back to Denver, Javale Mcgee.
Yeah. You got to keep all the alerts for Shams, for Woj, for Stein, for Amick, for everybody else. You got to keep them on high alert, especially right now. So we got the JaVale McGee news, of course, last night, I think just after midnight or something like that, maybe even a little bit later than that, 2 a.m, whatever it was. We had a move made then as well. Let's see, what were the details?
DeLon Wright and Corey Joseph.
Corey Joseph, yeah. Multiple second-round picks going as well. We have a lot to get to, obviously, so we can circle back to some of the trades. And like I said, as things break, we will let you know as it happens. As soon as we get those push notifications, we will tell you all about it. But how about a little bit of lineup study, something that we're sort of introducing into this program, tell people a little bit about what they should be looking for tonight. Maybe also reflect a little bit on how last night absolutely sucked for, I think, everybody. I mean, what was a good score last night? Like 230 points, it felt like?
Yeah, 313 on an 11-game slate, shipped a milli solo. It was a truly garbage slate. I didn't play it, so I feel happier than most people.
As you should. I mean, there really wasn't a good star. I mean, some of the value in mid-tier guys certainly came through, but like Jokic stunk. Luka was awful. Giannis disappointed. Harden didn't play. It was bad across the board, it felt like.
Yeah, Luka ended up 50% owned, went for 29. Giannis was 26% owned, went for 35. Jokic was 12% owned, went for 41. Towns was terrible, went for less than 40. You needed to have Vooch for 57. That was the spot that was most necessary. But, I mean, if you didn't have Alize Johnson yesterday, what are you doing? Alize Johnson, the 4th highest scorer on DraftKings last night. Just a wacky day.
How are you living your life without Johnson? All right, take us through this. What do we need to know?
Yeah, so the winning lineup last night, a solo bullet ships a milli on DK on an 11-game slate with a score that looks like a 2-gamer. Honestly, it's insane. Only 3 guys in the lineup were owned north of 10%. The name is Can't Stop Beast Mode. Just truly amazing. Jamal Murray, 1.5% owned, 36 fantasy points. Grayson Allen, 1.3% owned, 30 fantasy points. The Bogdanovi, Boyan at 0.7% ownership, 27 fantasy points. Not even good. Bogdanovich, 4K, went for 34. Now, he was actually getting a little bit of ownership, as was Kristaps Porzingis, went for 53. That I would have been on. Clint Capella went for 53 at 11% ownership. But Garland hit 43 once Colin Sexton was ruled out. And then Javale for 35 in the utility spot. 313.25 fantasy points. Enough to take down a solo milli on what I thought was going to be one of the more ridiculously high scoring slates of the year.
Right.
Au contraire.
Real disappointment. Yeah, you can see obviously all those details on your screen that Josh was running down, and it was almost a breathtakingly bad night in the NBA for fantasy performances last night. Like Josh said, you had to take advantage of some of those lower guys that normally you're just trying to wedge in for value or for opportunity, because the stars, it was just one bad one after another. It was, so I mean, just
11 guys max entered that Mega Millionaire last night. It was 33 entries at 2,500. 11 of them did. Every single one of them took an absolute bath. No one profitable. Mazwa and McLovin both went 0 for 33 in putting any lineups into the money. That is $82,500 down the drain. That is a brand new, very nice car.
So to answer your question, Adrian Wojnarowski, Denver is acquiring JaVale McGee for Isaiah Hartenstein or Stein and 2 future protected second-round picks. So basically, they're just
solid trade. I like the trade for both teams. I don't have much to add. I'm a JaVale fan.
Saying here, and is there any fantasy value for McGee in this situation?
Fantasy. Well, if we're talking about season long, no. But in DFS, trades don't matter. Guys have salaries, so they just change their salaries to match their new role. So in DFS, all of this stuff is basically meaningless. In season long leagues, you're not playing JaVale McGee in your season long leagues for 12 minutes a game. I mean, Jokic is going to play 36 minutes a game. So the most that JaVale is going to play is 12 minutes a day unless there's blowout run.
Jordan, not our producer Jordan, but Jordan Burkhardt in the chat says, I'm just here for the DVD pull. That's picked up a lot of acclaim. I don't know if you pay attention to the comment section after the fact, but or obviously just the chat in general when we're actively live doing the shows. But people are really enjoying the DVD pull. A lot of talk on social media about He Got Game last week.
That's a fantastic movie. And a perfect fit for an NBA strategy show too.
It really was. All worked out well. I started watching yesterday on the subject of just, I don't know, the things that you can put on a screen in front of you. Blue Mountain State. How had that show not been my life until yesterday? Have you ever seen that one?
No, never saw it.
Oh, it's right up your alley. Trust me when I say that. Available to you on Amazon Prime. Watch the first one. You won't turn back. I guarantee it. 5-game slate in the association tonight. Like I said, trade deadline is a little less than 5 hours away. Already moves underway, and we will let you know as things come about. But starting the process of getting into tonight, you've got limited options naturally, but Russell Westbrook, Julius Randle, Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler. That's the upper echelon of what's available to you this evening anyway. Who do you like?
I mean, this slate is kind of nuts. We don't have ownership yet, so it's hard for me to totally compare, but I think unquestionably Tyrese Halliburton is the best play on the slate. He's 5,700 on FanDuel, 6K on DraftKings. If we're talking about pay up options, it's kind of bleak. Julius Randle at 10-2 on FanDuel, probably my favorite pay up option there. If we're talking, the truly upper echelon, although De'Aaron Fox is 8,900, if we consider that pay up, he would technically be my answer. But I prefer Randle to Russ. I prefer Randle to Damian Lillard. We just saw this game happen, but Randle gets the benefit of facing the Wizards, and that is incredibly appealing from a DFS perspective. That is a nice pace.
Let's take a look through here in the chat, or as I like to call it, the Chat Kings conference room. A $5 super chat from Andrew. Thank you so much. Says I feel so much worse about my DK dollar win scored 330. A weird night.
That's that would if the buy-in for the Millie were a little bit more reasonable, that would really stress me out a lot. But since it's a $2,500 buy-in, you can't really be too shook on it. But knowing that you had a score that would have shipped $1 million solo by a mile must sting at least a little bit.
A lot of Blue Mountain State fans in here. Jacob, best show ever. BMS is the GOAT. Great show, says Ben. That show's pretty old, says Raz. Yeah, it only went for 3 seasons. It was on a while ago. I just kind of stumbled upon it and never seen it. Hey, it's about sports. And boy, it took me down a path. And like I said, I'm only a couple episodes in. What about your favorite value plays tonight, knowing full well that could totally change over the course of the next 8-9 hours?
Yeah, it's going to be a wild one today. I'm going to go live at some point in time in the 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock window. I think the trade deadline's at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, yep.
Yeah, so I'll probably be live sometime in that window, just trying to talk through some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Favorite value plays. So there's not a lot of super decent, truly pay down options on the slate. If we're talking about guys on FanDuel, the lowest that I really want to go is $4,200 James Wiseman. There's not a ton under his price tag. On DraftKings, it's a little bit different. I think Batum has to be in play on a 5-gamer, 3,700. Derek Jones Jr., I think, probably has the most upside here. He's 3,900. Nas Little and Anthony Simons are both out for health and safety protocols. Jones has played 30 minutes plus in 3 of his last 4. So if he does that again at sub 4K, that's a value spot where he's got the MPE, allows you to pay up a little bit more. I mean, Tony Bradley, Duncan Robinson, Marcus Morris, these are all guys that are sub 5K, but as of right now in that sub 4K range, it's really hard to find.
Want to mention quickly our Awesemo Hall of Famers. We appreciate you. We celebrate you, especially when you have good days, you Awesemo subscribers that end up cashing in on nice wins. And, that ranges, obviously. It could be a $500 win. It could be a $5,000 win. It could be even more than that. Whatever it is, like I said, you guys have good days. We celebrate you. There's even a section on the Awesemo website devoted to it. It is the Awesemo.com Hall of Fame. Just go awesemo.com/hall-of-fame, and you can see some of the people that we're talking about. And basically, we thank you for thanking us and for paying attention, subscribing, listening, taking all the advice that you hear here, be it on this show or others, taking it to heart and using it to go and win some money. So again, many thanks to all of you out there listening and for just being here with us, being part of the Awesemo family. But let's start to get into this thing. We've, sort of scratched the surface on overall players, but how about the games themselves? Portland and Miami is where we can start. And, like we said, especially being trade deadline day, who the hell knows what is potentially in store? Is this day going to resemble to you, kind of like that last day before the All-Star break where just everything flipped on its head over the course of the day and guys are getting ruled out left and right for one reason or another? In this case, obviously, it's not extended rest or extended break. It's because someone is on the move or being held out for, because they were just traded. Do you think there's going to be a lot of movement around the league in that sense?
I do think there's going to be a lot of movement. I don't think it's going to matter all that much for tonight's slate. Like, we'll know the news earlier in the day. We'll know who's in. We'll know who's out. I don't think that there's going to be a ton of surprises here. We don't really have a ton of news either on the slate. So from a holistic slate perspective, I think it's going to be relatively normal, relatively easy, nothing too crazy, just because we have, 4.5 hours of a window after the end of the deadline that will just sort of open up every other outcome for us. So I'm actually pretty excited about this. This should be, I think, one of the easier slates on the year. But I also thought yesterday was going to be crazy hard, and it just was crazy awful.
Yeah, it really bad. I mean, I won most of my head-to-heads with 215 points on DraftKings.
That's nuts.
That's how bad that night was.
Hey, I broke even, which is an incredibly high-ranking day. Just not playing probably makes it one of my 15 best days of the NBA season.
Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, Portland, like I said, in Miami, let's start there. Damian Lillard is, an obvious play in the sense that this is always a guy that could go off. It's hard to just totally fade him. Not necessarily in a great spot, though, if you're comparing him to other guys that are available, especially in a, points per dollar standpoint. In fact, Alex Baker, our own Awesemo, he has him only projected for about 4.5x value right now. Which is, not good compared to an Enes Kanter, who's 5.5. Now, Lillard's got the higher ceiling. That goes without saying. He's still projected for a little south of 50 points. Kanter's right around, 36, 37. You have some pay down options. Robert Covington. You can go way down. Derrick Jones Jr. Who do you like here, and can you justify Dame?
I'm not the biggest Dame fan in the world today, but it's not like he's not on the board for me. I think he's basically properly owned across both sites. 9,400 on FanDuel looks quite a bit better than the 10K price tag on DraftKings. I'm significantly more interested in CJ McCollum. 7,500 on FanDuel, 7,200 on DK. We've got him projected for around 10% ownership. His minutes were up the last game. He appears to be back to what we're looking for out of CJ McCollum. He played 38 minutes their last time out. They ran an 8-man rotation with Little and Simons out. They didn't even break into any other further down the line guys. So I'm giving CJ McCollum 36 minutes. And in that case, given the rates that he's had earlier this year, I'm very, very interested in going to CJ. I think that a 10% owned CJ on a 5-game slate is kind of silly if he's actually getting the minutes that he's like, if he's getting that full run of minutes. I think Robert Covington for 6,100 and 5,700 on FanDuel and DraftKings respectively is a fully functional play, about a 20%er. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Derek Jones Jr., whether that's 4,400 on FanDuel or just 3,900 on DraftKings, he is one of the value plays that I think is significantly more in play than anyone else, just because I don't really see where else they go with the minutes. I gave him 30. He's been a 0.75 fantasy point per minute guy over the past 30 days. I'm projecting him at 0.77. So it's not like I'm taking some huge stretch. And for all the people that want to like touch themselves to revenge narratives, he used to be on the Heat.
I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to know where to go with that exactly, other than just really, I'm trying not to blush.
I mean, look, people care about that. I don't get the sense that Derek Jones Jr. is all that mad about making multi-millions of dollars in Portland.
I happen to really like Narrative Street. I don't like it as much in the NBA as I do maybe in some other sports, but who isn't just spending some time alone in the dark thinking about whether it's, Greek appreciation night for Giannis. Jimmy Butler, about 40.
What's funny is I think it's bigger in the NBA than any other sport.
Yeah, well, I can see there's a lot of, ego and everybody taking everything personally all the time. That I can see that.
It's the only sport that you can control your own outputs. Driven. Like you can't have a revenge game as a wide receiver in the NFL. Someone has to still get you the ball in places to succeed. In baseball, you obviously just can't do it no matter what. That's not at all how that works. NBA, like if you want to shoot, you can just shoot. You can have the ball all the time. You can, especially for like usage dominant type dudes.
It's true.
If that guy's pissed off, like he could just have a huge shooting day.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Let's go Miami. Other side here. Jimmy Butler projected for right around 45 points. You got Bam Adebayo, Kelly Olynyk, Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn. We know all the usual suspects, obviously, for the Heat, but they're at least on DraftKings, nobody is a really compelling play, even on a 5-game slate. FanDuel, maybe it looks a little bit different. What do you think here?
This is basically two dudes, as far as I'm concerned, that you want to get with any sort of regularity. Obviously, one of them is Jimmy Butler, 9,500 on FanDuel, 9K on DraftKings. I'm not like overly excited about it, but he still looks great. The guy that I'm overly excited about is the guy that the public is already overly excited about, and that would be Bam Adebayo, particularly on FanDuel, where he is 8K and you have to roster 2 at every position. If we just look at Bam, he gets the power forward eligibility, which, like, to be perfectly honest, he shouldn't have. That's neither here nor there. I mean, he's the center on the Heat. I don't care what sort of like nominal position changes we're giving him. Doesn't matter to me. You got to play a ton of Bam Adebayo. I don't really see a way around it on FanDuel. He's the second most owned guy, and I actually think that he is slightly under-owned for that spot. So I am in love with Bam's outlook for today against Portland. Really nice matchup. Again, Butler's cool. Duncan Robinson's all right just because of his price tag, but nothing too crazy. Ownership's already there. I see the rest of Miami as mostly just filler. Robinson, Olynyk, Tyler Hero, maybe Kendrick Nunn if Goran Dragic is out. Those guys are like 5%ers to me. Bam is carrying the heavy freight. Butler a little bit less so.
Let's talk quickly about our sponsor, No House Advantage, and we can't shout them out enough. We love the folks at No House Advantage, of course, taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests across the NBA, naturally, MLB, NFL, when that's in session, and PGA, which is going on right now as well, all for cash prizes. And this exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform, it levels the playing field and makes it easier for you to win real cash compared with your traditional DFS sites. Now, the best part, you can join for free today, folks. Join for free today. Download the No House Advantage app and use the promo code Awesemo as if you expected anything else. Awesemo is the promo code, and receive a match deposit bonus up to $20, eligible for all users. Beat your friends, not the house, and win big with player props today. One of a lot of things I'm going to tell you about here over the next 40 minutes or so. Let's go to the next game, which actually has one of the higher totals on the slate, about 225 points, these two teams, Washington and New York. Wizards, Knicks. We begin with the Wiz and Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, obviously the two-headed monster there. It feels like I always roster the wrong one. That's just my own personal pattern. So you can educate the people on which way to go between those two, if either one. But beyond that, everyone of note is pretty much projected for 5X right on the line by Alex. And, Westbrook a little less, Robin Lopez a little less. It's more Beal and Len, Matthews, guys like that. Who do you like here?
This game, man, this game is such a weird one. Fastest team in the league against the slowest team in the league. We just saw it happen before, and I think we're just going to do sort of the same thing that we did previously. I think Bradley Beal looks better than Russell Westbrook because of his price. He's 9,200 on FanDuel and on DraftKings. Russ is basically 11K on both sites. I think it's just easier to get to Bradley Beal. Russ is fine, but probably not a guy I want 15% of on FanDuel. I think that's a little high right now. Rui is the other guy that's picking up a lot of love. He's projected for 26% ownership on FanDuel, just 11 on DK, $600 more expensive there. I think he's over-owned, but he's also a guy that you'll need to have today. He's very much part of a core, but 26% ownership on FanDuel for Rui is just too high. After that, it's filler. It's Neto and Garrison Matthews and Alex Len. Nothing that is really going to get anybody excited, but they're the guys that you can roster today, the 5%ers, if you will. But to me, Beal is the key guy coming out of New York, and I'm a little muted there, even just because of how slow New York plays, and at least a mild quality in defense.
Other side here for the Knicks. Julius Randle, RJ Barrett. Barrett actually, coming off a really good game. Randle is as well, for that matter. But these two guys after that, it's just kind of everybody else from a DFS perspective. Burks, Quickly, Bullock, Payton. As we know, there's no Derrick Rose, so that makes those guards a little bit more appealing. But between Randle and Barrett, which one do you like better?
Depends on the site, I guess. It's probably the easiest way to say it. So I prefer Randle.
Obviously a big difference salary-wise, so it depends what you have room for in your lineups.
Oh, yeah. Well, just speaking relative to salary, I prefer Randle to Barrett on FanDuel. I think he's in the optimal lineup a little bit more frequently. That said, Randle is a little bit more over-owned than Barrett, but they are both guys that showed up in the optimal lineup, let's just say about 25% of the time, which means I'm going to have them regardless of their ownership. On DraftKings, though, where Randle is the same price and Barrett is just $300 more expensive, I actually do prefer getting to RJ Barrett. He shows up about 15% of the time in the optimal. That is equal to his ownership. So Randle, a little bit less interesting to me on DK just because of the positional flexibility. I've got two other guys that I'm interested in here. Elfrid Payton is 5,200 and 5,100 on FanDuel and DK. He's not really picking up any ownership, so I like him as a contrarian GPP option. And then we need to have a conversation about $5,100 Mitchell Robinson on DraftKings, not picking up any ownership. Played north of 30 minutes the last time out without starting. He got all of the blowout run in the fourth quarter, but I think what we're seeing there is that Mitchell Robinson can play 30 plus minutes. Does he move into the starting lineup? Do they continue to use Nerlens Noel and just have Mitchell Robinson close? That's sort of the direction I think they're going to end up going. So I gave Mitchell Robinson 27 minutes. I gave Nerlens Noel just 21. If that plays out, Mitchell Robinson at 5,100 has the opportunity to really change the slate. And if he really does stay at a relatively low ownership number, that would be my favorite contrarian play of the day. If you like Reggie Bullock, just play him. It's just not sexy.
If you're not able to watch your favorite Awesemo shows on YouTube, well, keep in mind, you don't have to watch live. It's more fun when you watch live because you can be involved in the chat and you obviously get the most current information. You can always watch on delay, though. The shows are archived. They're all right there for you. But beyond that, there is a great podcast network, and almost all Awesemo shows on YouTube are available through the Awesemo Podcast Network. A podcast for every sport. We're available on every major platform. Head on over to awesemo.com/podcast. Check out the very latest and leave a 5-star rating, folks, and a review on one of our podcasts with your Twitter handle or email address. You'll be eligible to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner will be awarded every Friday. That is tomorrow in this case. And reviews will be eligible to win for up to a year as well. So good luck to you. We are keeping those on file, keeping a look at them. And do not worry, you are always top of mind for all of us. We're rooting for you. Before we go to the next game, and again, there are only 5. We've covered 2. We're about halfway through the show. You do some math on that. It tells you that we have 3 games left and a whole bunch of other nonsense, including a DVD poll. And we'll take a look at Odd Shopper as well. Just related to the trade deadline, which again, about 4.5 hours away at this point. Mitch here in the chat says, Koff, you think Danny breaks our hearts again? Doesn't make a move today? As the people know, and as you can certainly see, Celtics fan sitting right over here. Danny Ainge has not made a move in season in, I think, 6 years. It's basically been since the Isaiah Thomas acquisition. It's been a while, despite being attached to every big name this time every single year. Right now, everyone is hot and heavy over Aaron Gordon. Is your expectation that he is a guy the Celtics or any other team for that matter, because the Nuggets have been in the mix among other teams, should go out and acquire? Is he worth the price that Orlando is reportedly demanding, or do you think this guy's a little bit overhyped?
So I think that everybody should be interested in Aaron Gordon. I think that he is a guy that can be in the closing lineup of a championship level team. And those kind of guys are pretty few and far between. I would want to have an eye on him. The question then becomes, how are the deck chairs for Boston getting rearranged? Because I don't know if Aaron Gordon could be in a closing lineup for the Celtics. It all depends on who goes out in that deal. Obviously, you're expecting it to be Kemba and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But if Marcus Smart is still on that team and it's this trade doesn't have like Fournier coming back, I don't know if you're playing Aaron Gordon over Marcus Smart in that closing lineup. And I think I don't see a scenario where you're not playing a center, depending on which team you're playing. Like, you're clearly not going Aaron Gordon at the 5 against Embiid in a playoff series. And their starting lineup, like their main lineup of Kemba, Smart, Brown, Tatum, and Tice is like plus 12 per 100 possessions. It's been fantastic. If you're trying to get Aaron Gordon and you don't think he's closing for you, I don't think it's worth the price. I think he looks a lot better, say like in Portland, where I think he just immediately slots into a closing lineup spot. For the Boston Celtics, if you're not giving up any current assets to your team, if you're staying away from the Smart piece, like if this is young guys that are going back out the door.
Yeah, if you're giving out like an Aaron Nesmith or a Romeo Langford and pick, something like that.
Then I do like the pickup. I would actually, if I were the Celtics, I would be more interested in getting someone like Larry Nance, who I do think could actually close at the 5 in more situations at the very least. And I think he would fit they sort of need like a 4.5 more so than they need a 3.5. Mm-hmm. And I think that Nance would actually be a better look and probably come at a slightly cheaper price tag too.
Well, and one thing to keep an eye on regarding bigs and the Celtics is, there are all these rumors swirling that Tristan Thompson's not popular in the room, that he's out, and these are reports, this is not my knowledge, but these are reports that he's, out there breaking COVID protocol, and he's going out after games. He's in the COVID protocol right now, so he hasn't even played in a while. And he's just not loved. He's not a popular figure. Now, players have come and tried to shoot that down, the coach as well, Brad Stevens, but he's a guy that could be on the way out the door today. So something to monitor in the hours to come. German here.
That's tricky for them. Like,
yeah,
they sort of need a guy of his ilk, because I don't think that they could just turn it over to Robert Williams yet.
Right.
But he's guaranteed $9.7 million next year, and they are exceedingly expensive in 2021. That contract will be a little bit more expensive than 9.7 when you factor in luxury tax dollars. He's the guy that I think has to go out in a deal of matching salary. I don't really know who would want him, but the problem is his actual skill set is something that they'll need in the playoffs if they cannot get. Now, if they can get rid of Tristan Thompson and convince Andre Drummond to sign in the buyout market, I would be very interested in that. I don't think that would happen, mostly because of how much Joel Embiid would absolutely abuse Andre Drummond mentally. I don't think that would shake out the way that you would want it to, but that would be the only way where I think Tristan Thompson actually serves some utility in the playoffs.
Yeah, as far as whether Danny will break our hearts, though, just remember, routinely, they get close. They got close to some things, just didn't pan out. Takes two to tango, all that good stuff that we're typical, used to hearing of the season. I don't know. I don't even know if Gordon is the one that you go out and get it. If the package is right, like Josh said, it's a couple protected first round picks and a guy like, a younger rotation player that hasn't even really proven himself yet, like a Nesmith or a Langford, you can absolutely justify it. But considering he is not even a guaranteed starter or closer, and he's just a guy potentially, there's only so much you're willing to give up, and Marcus Smart is certainly not part of that package. W. German says the biggest question here is why does Adam continue to wear his Celtics gear the day after they got beat again? If Adam is wearing green on this show, you know the Celtics lost last night. It is an unspeakable pattern. I don't know why. I did it today in support of the trade deadline and just trying to will something interesting into existence because I hate watching that team this year.
I'm like oddly a Boston fan.
Well, I'm a huge Boston fan. This year, it's painful to watch that team because there's just no give a crap most of the time.
Yeah, look. I'm anxious to see what Danny pulls off today because they need to do something. If I were the Celtics, would burn this bad boy to the ground and see what I could get for Kemba Walker, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I think they've been trying to do that since the offseason. I think they'd love to move Kemba Walker. I mean, not his personality. He's a great teammate, great guy.
Yeah.
But just as a player and what he looks like post significant chronic knee injury, they'd love to move him. I think he's unmovable. I think that there's no takers for that contract.
I think you could find people that would want him.
Well, sign me up. Just get him out.
Like I would happily attach assets to him if you needed to. Like you're getting something back in return that's pretty viable. We're talking about $36 million next year, which is that's a biggie.
Huge.
And then a player option for 2022, which you think that he would immediately take it, but at the same time, if he gets through the 2021 season unscathed, I think it's more likely that he declines the player option and then signs another 3-year, $90 million deal. We'll see where that ends up.
It's Gordon Hayward is living proof that you just never know what to anticipate with regard to free agent contracts after a guy's had a miserable experience. I mean, look at what Charlotte paid him after barely playing for 3 years in Boston. El Negro Loco, by the way, says 512 people watching. We ain't hit 100 likes yet. Come on, y'all, smash that like. That's on me. That's on me, El Negro Loco, for not reminding the people. Sometimes you forget, you get comfy, you're just enjoying the show. And oh, wait, I haven't hit the like button. Smash that like button for us, folks. Let's get up over 100. Let's get to 150. One big push just to remind El Negro Loco that we are all here in support of this program and getting into all sorts of NBA stuff. By the way, before we continue on with tonight's games, just some of what do you make of the Kyle Lowry rumors and what is going on right now? Did he play, last night for the final time as a Raptor while Drake's FaceTiming him during his post-game media availability and all that?
If we're to believe that the Lakers, the Sixers, and the Heat are legitimately interested in Kyle Lowry, then I think it would shock me if he ended up on the Raptors after 3:00 today. If you have multiple teams that are bidding for someone like Kyle Lowry, who could legitimately swing a playoff series. I mean, we're talking about a very clear upgrade for everyone that gets him. That creates so much leverage for Toronto that I think that they could actually get a pretty solid return. And if you're Masai Ujiri, why would you not trade him? And it's the Lakers, the Sixers, and the Heat. I don't think Kyle Lowry is going to be bummed to end up on any of those teams. The Lakers would surprise me. We were just looking at this in Premium Slack, actually. I just don't think that because of their hard cap issues, because of the way that their salaries are set up, I have a hard time believing that they would be the team that could truly get this done. I think that the assets coming out are a little bit easier for other teams. I think Philly is probably the odds-on favorite to me just from the way that this looks. This is going to burn down chat, but I don't think it would happen. This is probably not the deal for it. I feel like they would probably be more interested in Precious probably, because I don't think that Toronto has any interest in Kendrick Nunn, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a time where Tyler Hero was the guy that ended up getting shipped out of Miami.
Interesting.
I don't think it's going to be in this spot, but it wouldn't surprise me. Duncan Robinson is about to get paid this offseason. I think Tyler Hero might be one of the more overrated players in the league. Certainly a great Instagram follow if you like to see someone's fits and if you're a big Jack Harlow fan. But I don't know if the NBA fit is legitimately there. And if he opens up
a solid playoff run, basically.
He didn't even really have a solid playoff run. He had a very solid game or two. Very overrated playoff run as well. Very inefficient.
lit up the Celtics, that's for sure.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content from nearly every DFS sport available to you with the Awesemo Plus weekly pass. Not even $30, $29.95 a week. It includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including, of course, player projections. We talk about that all the time. Ownership projections, our premium Slack channel that Josh just referenced, our new March Madness package with college basketball DFS projections for every single slate available to you about halfway through the tourney. So that's exciting. If you're only looking to play NBA DFS, that's perfectly okay. You can sign up now for just that package, Awesemo Plus NBA Weekly, and that is $16.95. So stop guessing, start winning, and join Awesemo Plus today. And a reminder, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well here on the Awesemo YouTube page. Let me see here. So from Woj, I just want to make reference to, anything interesting as it comes through here. This is not breaking news per se, but just easier to read on my computer than on my phone. Hang on. Adrian Wojnarowski, sources, Orlando continues to listen to offers on all-star Nick Vucevic, and it will take a substantial package to pry him as the Magic drill down on Aaron Gordon trades. Any additional money or an additional move with Vooch for assets would set franchise toward more substantial long-term retooling. I mean, do you think Orlando's going to blow this thing up, whether it's Gordon, Fournier? You mentioned there have been rumblings out there that both of those guys, Fournier being a free agent after this year, both of those guys could go to Boston, a larger deal, but obviously most teams are centered on Gordon. And then Vooch. It sort of seemed like the Vooch stuff, it was big for a while, then it died down, then it was he's not moving. Now you have this from Woj that at least they are listening, they are entertaining. Could we see a situation where two or all three of these guys actually do move today?
I can't imagine they trade Vooch. I just don't see it. They should. Don't get me wrong. They should. Their asking price seems to be way too high in the league. And he's a guy that I think makes your team get into the playoffs and be like a 5 through 8 seed. But I don't think that he's an upgrade to any top 4 seed team. He'll be a little bit of a problem in the playoffs. I don't think his offense is as important as the fact that he can't really anchor a defense. I love Vooch, but to me, stealing a term from Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue, he's more of a floor raiser than a ceiling raiser. And to me, I don't think the price will be worth it. Plus, that's a tough sell for the fan base. You can sell them on off-injured Aaron Gordon. You can say that you've got Isaac waiting in the wings to just take over at that spot when he gets back. Fultz is going to be back. Fournier is just simply not coming back. It would blow my mind if he's not traded. But I have a hard time thinking that they trade their all-star in Vooch.
All right, let's get back to the games here because we do still have 3 to go and about 20 minutes left here and about 600 people watching. So thanks for hanging out. The Clippers and Spurs. First on the Los Angeles side, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. You got Zubac, who is, had put some good games together here in his starting role. You could pay down Nick Batum. But obviously of the upper echelon guys, and I'm as much as I'm tempted to include Zubac in that, I'll stick with Kawhi and George. Which one do you like best? And then overall, who do you like on this team tonight?
Pretty easily, Paul George across both sites. He's $1,500 cheaper on FanDuel and $1,000 cheaper on DraftKings. Now, Kawhi's been playing great, 1.3 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. But relative to salary, I think it's just a lot easier to fit in Paul George than Kawhi. Zubac continues to be a pretty chalk play. I think it's more warranted today than it has been. 5,600 on FanDuel, 5,600 on DraftKings, playing 30 to 34 minutes, something in that neighborhood. He's properly owned in the 25% range. Marcus Morris is 5K and 4,800. I think he's a guy you probably want in like 20% of your lineups on FanDuel, like 10 to 15 on DK. And then Nick Batum, 3,800 on FanDuel, 3,700 on DraftKings. One of the few guys in the sub 4K price tag that's going to play, 28 minutes or so and have the opportunity to provide some value. So more so than I was expecting. George, Leonard, Zubac, Morris, and Batum, all very much on my radar. One of my more favorite teams on the slate, oddly, is the Clips. That is not something I would have predicted just looking at the slate before I ran any data.
As you said, Paul George certainly in the better spot. He's projected for about 5.5x value by Alex, 42 points, a little bit shy of Kawhi, but significantly cheaper by $1,000, as Josh outlined for you before. So going to the flip side of this game here with the Spurs, and then we'll get back to the chat and some of the other stuff going on. anyone jump out at you? I mean, no one is in a particularly good spot on DraftKings. You do have obviously the bigger names available to you, Murray, DeRozan. There's everyone else, right? Mills, Podol, Johnson, White, guys like that. But it's I don't know. Nobody really jumps out at you.
No, this is not good at all. Like really, truly not good. DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Keldon Johnson, they are getting some ownership. They're all about 15% owned, and I agree with that on FanDuel. None of them really stand out. They're all very low-level guys. San Antonio is actually my second worst team for the slate. Only team that's worse is the Wizards, but they have Beal and Westbrook that have actual like high-end ceilings, so I think it's a little different. I think San Antonio is in the worst spot of the day. Again, Keldon Johnson, Derek White, I think they both look okay on FanDuel and DK. But this is the team where I will be getting the least amount of value.
Ray says, Adam rocking his Uncut Gem shirt today. This is Taco Fall, not Kevin Garnett. But I can see here on the how on the shirt, it looks pretty similar. Here, zero in.
I mean, even if it is KG, just because it's KG doesn't mean it's an Uncut Gem shirt.
I know, right? Maybe it's just in support of Kevin Garnett. Does that happy birthday, buddy? Thank you, Ray. Appreciate you. And says, I love Ray. Ray is like not remotely. He's my demographic, but he's not the demographic of the NBA strategy show, because he says, I'm here for the trade talk. And by the way, is there a DVD pull today? So like he is, I mean, it's like all the off-board stuff that I tend to focus on when I'm doing these shows, Ray is here for. When are we going to add that program on Awesemo, by the way? Who do I need to talk to just have the DVD pull hour?
I would take that one to Nolan Kelly.
Okay, I'll do that. At least I know that you'll dip in from time to time.
I'll stop by every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta. Let's see. What do I want to tell you guys about? How about El Negro Loco's hanging out in the chat. Let's tell you a little bit about him and everything going on with deadline day here, because again, we are approaching 4 hours remaining until the NBA trade deadline. Stay up to date with the latest NBA DFS news with the Awesemo NBA Twitter handle. It is at Awesemo NBA. Easy enough to remember. Our guy News God will be delivering the latest on injuries, starting lineups, minutes restrictions, certainly in the case of today, trades, any sort of movement. We've already had a couple, as we know, and daily before lock. So make sure you give Awesemo NBA a follow, and also News God, his Twitter handle. It's NEWZ God _DFS, News God _DFS, and check out today's deep dive article, which is free this season as a must read if you are playing NBA DFS tonight. Check that out every single day. Ship my money. Our guy Bearded Adam does himself a great job. There's no question about that. Really, it's a deep dive, quite literally. I mean, there's just so much information about every game, both sides, that you need to know. It's a great extension of these shows that you can find here on the Awesemo YouTube page. Let's take a look at Philly and the Lakers. First, Philadelphia with no Joel Embiid. So you got Ben Simmons at the top here, who is not even projected for 5x value. Just want to point that out. But north of 40 points projected. Some of the pay down options might be more appealing to you, whether that's Dwight Howard with obviously Embiid out. You got Korkmaz is in a good spot at $4,100 on DK. Tobias Harris, Simmons, not as great, but what do you think?
So a lot of this comes down to whether or not Seth Curry and Danny Green play. They are both questionable for today. I have them both in, but to me, Ben Simmons is the best option on Philly. He's 8,200 on FanDuel. One of my favorite plays on FanDuel today. I'm actually over the field. So grab yourself some Ben Simmons. Love the spot against the Lakers too, with no AD, no LeBron. Tobias Harris would be my second favorite option on FanDuel. I think he is properly owned at around 25%. Tony Bradley is a wild card. He's 5,400 on FanDuel now. I have him in for 22 minutes, but because the lack of value is out there, I kind of like him as a contrarian GPP option. And he's 4,300 on DraftKings. So while I like him as a contrarian GPP option on DK, he's a much better play on DraftKings at $1,100 cheaper. Dwight kind of scares me. The price tag just isn't really there. I don't have a ton of interest in Danny Green or Seth Curry if they do play, but if they end up out, you probably go straight back to someone like Korkmaz at the flat minimum on FanDuel. Or, if one of Danny Green or Seth Curry is in, maybe you grab, that one that is in. So like if Danny Green happens to be out, I like Seth Curry. If Seth Curry happens to be out, I think Danny Green would be okay. But to me, Simmons on FanDuel is a clear-cut star. Tobias Harris is pretty close to the same. On DraftKings, I will rotate through both of them, just a little bit less so.
Okay, one more. Let's see, the Lakers. Let's go to the other side here. I mean, this is just sort of insanity and continues to be without, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, because you're looking at Montrezl Harrell. Obviously, you got to at least consider Kyle Kuzma, Dennis Schroeder, Taylor Horton Tucker. Has sort of been up and down, as people know. I killed some people the other night. Alex Caruso, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and anyone that has, 3 names is someone you need to consider. And just in life, never mind just in the NBA. But is there a standout guy outside of maybe Harrell, who, as we know, is coming off a really bad game DFS-wise?
I think this is one of the harder teams to actually pay attention to, just because if the Lakers are active in the trade deadline, a couple of these guys are on their way out. So I like Harrell. I have him under-owned on FanDuel and on DraftKings. I actually have him in the optimal lineup on DK about 28% of the time. That is north of the public. I'm heavier on all 3 of the main Lakers guys, Harrell, Schroeder, and Kuzma, on FanDuel and DK. I think that all 3 of them are going under-owned. I think that Taylor Horton Tucker, Alex Caruso, and Markieff Morris are all going over-owned. I like them, but they're a little bit owned more than I would like. In particular, I think Caruso at $100 above the minimum on FanDuel stands out. And I think that he is also the best other option on DK as well, $3,900. The question then becomes, who's actually on this team after 3 o'clock? If the Lakers make any moves, they're going to have to get off of some salary. You would expect that to probably, if they have to give out an asset, be THT. So that would change up things a little bit. If they are really looking to sign Andre Drummond in the buyout market, it's possible you see Montrezl Harrell get shipped out to another location. I think Charlotte would be interesting for him. If they have Andre Drummond and they have Marc Gasol, plus Anthony Davis will likely be playing the 5 in all sorts of legitimate closing lineups in the playoffs. That would make Harrell a little superfluous. He's also not a great fit for playoff basketball. So I'd be very intrigued to see what would happen there. This is a team that is totally in flux. But if you want to play Harrell, Schroeder, and Kuzma, and they're on the team after 3 p.m., go for it, because I think they look really good today against Philly.
We got a new member in the chat, Patrick Bush, joining up. Says he wants to join a winning team, start winning like you guys at Awesemo. You guys are awesome. Patrick, welcome. Good to see you. Who was it? NJN Kaufman still looks hungover from St. Patrick's Day. Is it the green that does it? You guys should. I mean, if like I look like this all the time, so you should see what I look like when I'm hungover. Like, that is a disaster. This right here is just my everyday look, for better or worse. This is what the good Lord gave me.
Are you hungover? I'm not hungover. I haven't had a drop of alcohol in over 30 days. Not because I'm like, going sober or anything like that. Just wasn't a part of the diet for a little bit, but I'm going to have a little bit of booze tomorrow. So I'll get right back on track.
Just to celebrate the NBA trade deadline being passed?
We got a beach house for a couple days, so we're just going to go chill. So I'm going to knock back a couple cocktails. A buddy got me a nice bottle of Henny for my birthday last month, so I'm going to dip back into that.
Now we're talking. Hey, Celtics related, Keith Smith covers the entire league, a real focus on the C's, but covers the league for Yahoo, among other places. According to league sources, Aaron Nesmith is drawing a good deal more interest from opposing teams than Romeo Langford. One team not talking trade with Boston told me that tracks. Langford is such an unknown. That goes back to the draft. Nothing has changed since then. As we know, Romeo Langford's missed time with injury. His career really hasn't gotten off the ground just yet. No. Nesmith is, in his rookie season, hasn't played a ton either. But it goes back to what we were talking about with a potential Aaron Gordon trade. I really think that if that happens, it's one of those two guys.
Oh, yeah, at the very least. Nesmith is not going to be long for the Celtics.
Yeah, I don't think so either. All right, let's see. We got the one more game to go to. So let's do that, because we got another 10 minutes or so. Golden State, and hit the like button. How are we not at 200, 600 people watching here? Hit the like button. We're rapidly approaching. If you want to really show off, get to 250. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you folks. Golden State here. So with no Steph, as we know, Draymond is, at the top in terms of the projections for just south of 40 points. Andrew Wiggins right behind him. He is in a better spot points per dollar wise. Jordan Poole, Kelly Oubre, James Wiseman might be in the best spot of any of them in terms of what his salary and projected performance is. But who stands out to you?
This entire game, I have Golden State and Sacramento 1-2 in the aggregate odds of being in the optimal. This is unquestioned the best option. Huge pace up spot for Sacramento, and Golden State gets the benefit of actually playing a truly trash Sacramento defense. Now, I don't really think Golden State is going to be active in the deadline. It's possible you see Oubre move, but who knows? Sacramento, on the other hand, could really mix things up depending on what they want to do. I'm sure they just don't do anything of value. So Golden State, Wiggins, Poole, Draymond, and James Wiseman, all 22 to 30+% owned on FanDuel. Poole, Wiggins, Oubre, and Wiseman all picking up a ton of love on DK as well. Draymond's a bit more expensive on DraftKings, so it's hard to justify. I completely agree with all of it. Like, I think Kelly Oubre might be a little under-owned on DK. I think that Poole might be a little over-owned. But in the grand scheme of things, these are all guys that I'm expecting to have in 15, 20, 30. I mean, for someone like Oubre on DraftKings, 40% of my lineups. I think Damian Lee, if you want to go to 3,700 or 3,900, could work as a value play. Nico Mannion at 3,600 could potentially work as a value play. I'm unloading fully on Golden State. There could be a lot of points here. Sacramento's defense is all sorts of crappy. And Sacramento down one guy in their rotation, no Corey Joseph.
Jack says Josh on Henny is must-see TV. Some people wondering if he'll be doing a 2:00 stream. From Mitch with the circle back to the old Kevin Garnett reference, says Josh Engleman, anything is possible.
That's good, man. That's good. That's a good combination of everything we've done so far today.
Yeah, it's you got to credit the chat is oftentimes the smartest people in the room in terms of creativity, and I respect it. So final time and final team for tonight, we have got ourselves Sacramento. It's really not De'Aaron Fox or Rashawn Holmes. It's more about Tyrese Halliburton, Harrison Barnes, who may or may not play tonight, depending on whether obviously the Kings keep or deal him. That's been kind of up and down in terms of the rumors. Hassan Whiteside is in a great spot at 4K on DraftKings. Who do you like here?
Everybody.
Okay.
I'm all over De'Aaron Fox here. 8,900 on FanDuel, 8,700 on DraftKings. I think he's pretty massively overowned or underowned rather. One of my favorite, if not my favorite GPP plays. The only difference is I think Halliburton is also massively underowned. I got him in for 36 minutes. These guys are playing massive minutes and they don't have to worry about Corey Joseph grabbing anything. I have Halliburton in the optimal lineup 50% of the time on FanDuel, 39 on DK. He was my number one contender on both sites. I'll take whatever Harrison Barnes I can get. I'll take whatever Rashawn Holmes on DraftKings I can get at 7,300. 8K is a little bit more of a tough sell. I mean, these guys all play like 33 plus minutes. Buddy Hield, Barnes, Halliburton, Fox, 36, 37. So I'm getting to Hield. I'm getting to Holmes, Barnes, Halliburton, Fox. I think you could even talk yourself into like a little bit of 4K Hassan Whiteside in lineups where you don't have Rashawn Holmes. If you want to think like, oh, maybe Holmes gets into foul trouble, Whiteside gets to 20 minutes. I think that's worth a flyer at 4K on DK. And then someone is going to find a little bit of extra minutes on DK for Sacramento, whether that's Metu or Kyle Guy. Maybe Daquan Jeffries gets dusted off again, Justin James. I think one of those guys could end up being more valuable down the line, but I don't really know who's going to get those minutes as of yet. Either way, all five starters for Sacramento, lock and load, get a ton. I don't really see a situation where you don't want like infinite starters. Similar story on the Golden State side, just aggregate ownership. I'm expecting 2.5 guys from this game in the optimal. So 3 is technically the most likely scenario, slightly more than the 2, just based on rounding. And I think 4 is super, super in play. This is the spot that I want to be, unquestioned, unless the trade deadline blows it all up.
Folks, you probably see the Awesemo avatar all over the place, all over the DFS leaderboard, and it's for good reason. See, if you rock the avatar on your DFS profile, you will win a free month of Awesemo Plus when you place within the top 3 in any GPP of at least 5,000 entries. So head on over to awesemo.com/announcement/avatar, or simply, this is very easy, Google Awesemo avatar for instructions on how to download the image and then join the party. Why not? Someone says Eric in the was it Eric in the chat? Yeah, Eric in the chat. Does Adam always smile when he talks? I'm a happy guy. It's better to smile, isn't it?
Smiling's your favorite.
Yeah, you want smiling's my favorite, exactly. You want to look miserable? There's no fun in that.
That would be me.
No, you smile more often than not too.
Well, I don't want to do that, so I should probably try to be a little bit better about it.
Yeah, flip that grin upside down, I guess. Clayton says, who do you think are the best centers for tonight? Which bigs stand out to you?
All right, I'm just going to look from a FanDuel perspective. There are only 4: Holmes, Harrell, Zubac, Wiseman. I would say Harrell is the clear-cut top option. If I look at DK, Harrell and Julius Randle would be my 2 favorite DraftKings center options.
NJN, you guys should buy a tandem bicycle.
I've never ridden one of those.
We can be like the opening of Perfect Strangers or something like that.
I don't want to be Balky.
That's fine. I'll be Balky. A buddy of mine the other day, by the way, to let you inside the text threads with my idiot friends, got an extensive just breakdown of did you know that like Balky doesn't really have an accent? He's not actually from overseas. He's no kidding.
People were acting crazy. Did you know that Robert Downey Jr. isn't actually black? That was just that was makeup in Tropic Thunder. It's nuts.
Oh, but he was great.
Amazing.
I'm so glad he won those awards. Kaufman says, let's put a smile on that face. All right. You guys are great. So, yeah. Now someone's talking about Balky. See, we've fully gone off the rails. Maybe we can we'll find like Beverly Hills Cop off the DVD pull, which has Balky in it. Serge in the movie.
I'm hoping for Beverly Hills Ninja.
Yeah, I don't think I have that one.
Oh, that's a shame.
It is a shame. One of the biggest edges in sports betting, by the way, is always shopping to find the best line. Betting lines change by the minute, can vary greatly depending on which book you're using. That's why it is important to use Awesemo's Odds Shopper to find the best line available on the game or player prop that you are betting on to give you the absolute best edge to help you beat the house. So head on over to oddshopper.awesemo.com, where we compile the best bets available to you for game lines, player props, player and team futures, all updated in real time. So that in mind, my friend, I have gone to Odd Shopper and I am looking at point spreads.
Okay.
How about Clippers -6.5? What do you think against the Spurs?
I think it's more likely that the Spurs deal people, so I would be more likely to take the Clippers in that scenario.
Okay. Well, you might feel the same way here about this game, the Sixers and Lakers. So best case, you can get the Sixers at -5.5, the Lakers at +6. What do you think?
I think that it's probably more likely that I would want to take the Sixers in that spot. Anybody that leaves for the Lakers is going to be a guy that's probably playing some sizable minutes, and that is going to at least take them down by, a half point to a point.
Someone asking if training days in the DVD collection. Absolutely. Got to have it. Moving on over to totals. Our highest total right now looks like it's Golden State and Sacramento at 226 on the over, 226.5 on the under, depending again on which book you are looking at. How do you feel about that number?
I want to take the over there. I'm surprised it's not higher. I think we see that climb throughout the day, but it might already just be there. But I would lean over.
Let's look at player props. Those are always fun here. And of course, this is points that we're focused on. So you have got RJ Barrett 19.5.
I have 19.3.
Okay, so you're living right there. This one surprises me actually. Bradley Beal 31.5.
I have him at 30.8. So I guess I would slightly lean to the under, but ultimately that's not a bet that I would take. Anything inside of a point, I wouldn't. I would just
Julius
consider
Randle,
that efficient.
25.5.
I have him at 25.6.
Damian Lillard, 28.5.
I would lean to the under there. I have him at 27.3. I think with CJ playing the full allotment of minutes now, that might be a little bit different direction.
That in mind, CJ McCollum at 20.5. Do you have him on the over then?
I do. I have him at 22.2.
Let's see. Is there one more good one? DeJounte Murray, you mentioned him before. 15.5. That on the low side?
15.2.
Guess not. Right in line. In that case, his running mate there, DeMar DeRozan, 19.5.
So I'm at 20.4. I would actually be very close to taking that over. And if I could find it at like plus money, then I would definitely take that over.
Well, so from betting odds to crystal balls, Steven wants to know, Josh, who is the biggest name that gets moved today?
Evan Fournier.
Low price? I mean, because he is a rental, at least unless somebody re-signs him, as we know.
Yeah, I mean, wherever he's going, I assume that's where he's going to end up, probably. Nothing too crazy. A pick, maybe a flyer type player. That could be like some sort of protected first. Like, I don't, whether this happens or not, some sort of protected first, something that makes salaries match, and Langford from the Celtics, for example, like a guy that has like legitimate question marks.
Do you like Fournier or Gordon better?
Got to be Gordon. The defense, the switchability, the creation, the athleticism. I would rather just have Gordon. I would, if those guys are going to make the same amount of money, I would rather have Gordon. I think it's easier to fit around Gordon than it is. Not that I don't like Fournier, but I would prefer Gordon. Youth helps there too.
It just surprises. I'm not even saying Aaron Gordon's a bad player. I think he is underwhelmed in his years in the NBA for the most part. I feel like we talk about Aaron Gordon like he's this, perennial all-star, when in fact, you look back at what he's done in his career, and injuries have played a role, certainly, and Orlando in general has played a role, but and he's not the number one guy. Like, I'm sure if he's the number one on a bad team, like, yeah, he's probably getting 22, 23 points a game, but
Orlando is trading Nikola Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu to Chicago.
Whoa, wait, back it up. Hang on. Woj bomb.
Okay, so
Vooch and Al-Farouq Aminu to Chicago.
So I would guess that Lowry Markkanen is out, right?
Bulls are sending Wendell Carter Jr. and 2 first-round picks. Like,
where are you seeing that? Because that I'm not seeing.
That's Woj.
Really?
Yeah. Refresh.
It's just a run. There it is.
So that's what gets me. Oh, wait, hang on. Is this thing continuing to blow up?
That is an outstanding trade for Orlando.
Chicago all right, so now
there's got to be more salary.
Now Sham says it's Vooch for Wendell Carter Jr. and Otto Porter. Yeah, Porter's going too.
And so Vooch, 2 firsts?
I think so. I mean, it's coming from a variety of places now, and they're trying to get it updated, obviously, in their race to be first. But Vooch,
Porter expires, right, this year?
Wendell Carter and Otto Porter. I believe Porter does.
Porter went out for Mo Bamba. Okay, yeah, so Porter expires after this year. To me, that's a fantastic, depending on the protections on those picks, which I assume is fine. That is an outstanding trade for the Magic and an absolutely terrible trade for Chicago.
How does this all line up then? I know, DFS, you don't focus on that and everything we talked about earlier with just salaries falling in line and that sort of thing. But in terms of, on floor, and it doesn't even have to be performance, season long wise and fantasy, but just in general, in life, how do you think this plays out? You like this a lot for Chicago, or for Orlando rather?
I absolutely love it for Orlando. They're going nowhere. Why not do that? The protections on the first are interesting. If Otto Porter gets bought out, I think he becomes a very, very interesting free agent destination. I can't imagine he doesn't get bought out. Why would they play out the string here? He can be a really interesting wing piece for a contender. I don't know what in the world the Bulls are doing here. I don't know why you would do that. The protections will mean everything on the picks. Like if they're lottery protected, it's a little bit better, but I mean, their defense is going to be comically terrible.
So is this all right? So here's the.
I love the offensive fit. Vooch and Levine are going to be really nice, but their defense is bad.
From Woj, let me give you the final terms. Here's the deal. The Bulls land Nick Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu for Otto Porter, Wendell Carter Jr., 2 first-round picks. Huge addition for Chicago. Remains in pursuit of Lonzo Ball as well, according to Woj. The Magic are moving toward a rebuild now with Aaron Gordon deal on deck. So that's what I was just going to ask you. Is this, I mean, with Vooch gone, is this just the full-on, okay, we're blowing it up? Like Gordon's gone next, Fournier potentially as well. Like this is the beginning of the end for Orlando, who are tired of just being an 8 seed.
So I'm going to, depending on what the market for Aaron Gordon can be, I would actually like to keep him now. I understand I would trade Fournier still because he's not going to come back, but
right.
I have no problem playing Aaron Gordon at the 4 and Wendell Carter Jr. at the 5. Like to me, that still works. But if Aaron Gordon can get a young player and a nice pick, then I really do like it a lot to just like cash in everything you can. But if you're able to, like, I didn't think that they would trade Vooch, so it made more sense to bust it all down elsewhere. But if they have already traded Vooch, then Aaron Gordon is the kind of guy you should keep.
So Mark Stein, New York Times, expected to trade both Aaron Gordon and Evan Fournier in the next 3+ hours. Orlando opens its business with a stunner. Obviously moving Vooch to Chicago. Interesting. I'm honestly a little surprised it happened so early in the day, but I guess it's just, let's take care of that and, move on to our other move. This is probably the first of at least 2 or 3 deals for Orlando.
Yeah, that's wild. Oh, I did not see that coming at all. I certainly didn't see that deal coming at all either.
Yeah. Well, I guess to go back to Steven or whoever's question it was a little while ago, is Vooch the biggest name that moves today now that we know he's moved?
That implies that I think that Vooch is better than Aaron Gordon.
I think he's more desirable.
He shouldn't be, but probably. If the Bulls are really looking for Lonzo, that's wild, man. Wild.
Doesn't it just feel like Lonzo's on the move with all New Orleans isn't going to re-sign him. So they're just trying to get what they can for him, but getting a little greedy in the process there, as is, I don't blame them, prone to kind of their management style of late as well, hoarding picks and whatever else. But it sort of feels like the Lonzo thing, I'm not saying to Chicago necessarily, but just in general, him moving feels inevitable.
I don't know what happens with Lonzo. If the Bulls have already traded 2 first-round picks, like who's going out in that deal? It's got to be Kobe White and somebody, right? I mean, who the hell, or Markkanen in the challenge trade?
What I was thinking about, yeah.
It doesn't, I don't know why the Pels would want to do that. I'm really confused by this.
How old is Vooch? Is he like 28?
30 something, 30, 31?
I'm going to look.
30 and a half?
Yeah, 30.
I don't know what the Bulls are doing here.
What's his contract? How many years left does he have in his contract? Let me see.
2 years, descending, 24 million next year, 22 million this year. Look, that's fine. He's not like wildly overpaid.
I would have tried to trade for him over Gordon.
I would rather play Daniel Tice than Nikola Vucevic.
Yeah.
He can't guard anybody in the postseason. Like he's going to be a legitimate liability. He can't be a closing center for a good team. That's a great trade for Orlando.
Interesting. All right. Well, we can let people go focus on
Somebody in chat said Bulls are trying to make a title run this year. They might not even win a first-round playoff series. What a terrible take.
And Josh wants you to hit the like button.
Good God.
All right, DVD pull. Let's do it.
Oh God, let's do it. All right, let's go. Is that a Taco Bell Chihuahua in like the bottom right-hand corner?
Over there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go one above the Taco Bell Chihuahua, and then one over to the right. Yeah. By the way, is that a Zach Galifianakis bobblehead with like the baby attached to him?
Sure is. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. What's up, Carlos? Not at the table, dude.
Get the baby's head on the table.
By the way, if the question is, would I rather have Wendell Carter Jr. or Vooch defending the paint? It's Wendell Carter Jr. Anyway,
pour one out for Mo Bamba.
Okay, so we're gonna go one above there, and then one over to the right now.
Okay.
And let's go 8 in from the left.
Jeez. All right. Can I count that high from the left?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. All right. This is a movie you probably haven't thought about in a long time. The Rundown.
Oh God.
The Rock.
That's terrible, right? That's a terrible movie. That's a terrible. That's before The Rock.
Hey, it's according to Clay Smith from Access Hollywood. The Rundown's a first-rate action adventure. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that is not a good movie right there.
Well, can't all be he got game.
No, they can't. I'm shook by this trade now.
Yeah, this is a thing. 720, The Rundown. I saw that in the theater.
I cannot believe that trade just happened.
Jordan was calling for Pineapple Express.
Weird season for Wendell Carter Jr., but I mean, defensively, he was really good last year and the year before that. I'm very interested. Look, Wendell Carter Jr. as let's talk about it like this, because I think this is the most interesting piece. Steve Clifford is the coach of the Orlando Magic. He is a fantastic defensive coach, coached up the Hornets to significantly higher defensive rankings than their personnel showed that it should be in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of having Wendell Carter Jr. grow into anchoring a defense, which is probably what they thought Mo Bamba could have done. I think Steve Clifford can really improve a team's defense with Wendell Carter Jr. there. Get some youth, get some picks. If they could keep, like, depending on what that price is for Aaron Gordon, that is a really strong defensive 4-5. I really like that move for Orlando.
So Keith Smith says, per source, the Chicago Bulls are still, what do we got? Still looking at Lowry Markkanen trade. Chicago doesn't see him and Vooch as a long-term fit next to each other in the front court.
Say that again?
That they don't see Vooch and Markkanen as a long-term fit in the front court, and the Bulls are looking at Markkanen trades. Which, I mean, we said that before.
I mean, they need a defensive 4 more than anybody. You know who they need? Aaron Gordon.
Maybe in a separate deal.
I don't know who the Bulls stop now. Between Zach LaVine and Vooch at center, like, that is they're going to score a lot of points. That offense is going to be hella fun.
What about? So now there's some skepticism, on Twitter, or some theorizing about Otto Porter getting bought out. Do you think we're heading down that direction?
Yeah, I said it before. There's no reason. Yeah. There's no chance he's playing out the season for Orlando. I don't know why it would. I assume that he takes a buyout and ends up as a wing on a contender. That's that's an interesting move for a contender now. That is a guy that didn't look like he was going to be on the market that is now.
Interesting. Let's see here.
Unless Orlando tries to flip him again, but I don't know if there's like aggregation rules for that. It might not even be possible.
I don't know.
Well, they could just turn it into a 3-teamer if they really needed to. But yeah, I would expect Otto Porter to get bought out and end up on a contender.
Steven says, I'm pretty sure Josh likes the trade deadline more than Christmas.
I do. Otto Porter to the Suns would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Another wing gearing up for them.
Jack says Lonzo, Levine, Vooch, that would kind of smash.
Smash records for most points allowed as a defense.
Tony says, Josh, are you starting a trade talk show on YouTube at 1?
Probably a little bit later than 1, but yeah, I am.
All right. Very good. Well, we'll let people go back, relive, try and remember there are 5 games going on tonight that we did intermittently talk about here on this show amongst everything else. So a few trades deep into the NBA deal deadline with Vooch, obviously the biggest name that has been moved. Wendell Carter, Otto Porter swapped in that deal. Orlando and Chicago. DeLon Wright to Sacramento for Corey Joseph last night. You had the Javale Mcgee moving on back to Denver that we talked about earlier as well. Money Jordan says you got Snatch on DVD. Sure do. In fact, I think it's in that same, it's maybe a shelf over. I think it's in that same general area. Steven says, thanks, guys. Great stuff. Thanks to all of you for hanging out here with us. And, just a reminder, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and do everything else that we tell you about throughout the show. I'll be back with you on Monday. So obviously a couple days beyond the trade deadline to digest all of this stuff. But Josh, like he said, he is going to be right back with you in less than a couple hours, or maybe about a couple hours leading you up into the trade deadline, 3 p.m. Eastern time, to go over everything that is happening. And who knows, we are off and running here today and still almost 4 hours to go. Our thanks to Jordan, our producer, who for the most part, as far as I can tell, paid attention to today's show. So that feels like a victory. Josh, great to see you, buddy.
Good seeing you too, bro.
All right, on the next.
Let's get out of here,
guys.